Hello guys, and welcome to ThatSrb2DUDE here today, bringing you yet another Splatoon 2 video. Now today we are going to be going through the patch comparisons for version 4.5.1 to version 4.6. Now without, any delay, as I'm delaying right now, let's get into the video. Starting with the Splatoon schematic, the movement speed while in ink, basically there is now decreased time which is required for maximum acceleration. For the Battleship Junior, there is now decreased ink consumption by roughly 14%. As you can see in the example, I will shoot forever compared to the, previous patch where the Battleship Junior doesn't shoot as much. For the aerospray, the blobs of ink that land on the floor, cover much more turf. For the 52 gal, the increased minimum damage for a shot has gone from 26 damage to 30 damage. For the 96 gal, same thing. The increased minimum damage has been increased from 31 damage to 35 damage instead. For the Lunar Blaster, there is now decreased time before ink recovery starts by roughly 5 frames. For the Heavy Splatling, its increased movement speed while charging has been increased by 3%, while firing has been increased by 6%, and the radius of ink coverage around your feet when firing has been increased by 7%. For the NZAP, there has been increased radius of ink coverage around your feet while firing by roughly 6%, and the main power-up ability will now more likely provide more benefit with fewer instances of the ability equipped. For the Battleship Pro, there have been decreased benefits from main power-up. Basically, the change from 49.9 damage, where you had to wear 3.1 mains or main power-up, has now been changed to 3.9. Basically, your entire gear setup has to be main power-up if you want to get back to 4.9 damage. For the Ink Brush, they have adjusted the rate of damage drop-off over distances to be less severe than it previously was. And for the Ink Brush and Octobrush, there has also been additional other benefits for when equipping main power-up. Basically, your painting as you're running has been, it thickens or gets wider. And as you can see in the two examples with the Ink Brush and Octobrush, while I am running, their ink is much more thicker. And I believe from this example is a little bit more extreme since I was running 3 mains on 1 sub. But that is pretty much the change for these two weapons. For the Cowling Bomb, there's been multiple similar changes to how you recover ink. Basically, you recover ink either 5 or 15 frames faster. It's basically a buff to Cowling Bomb, and I don't really need to explain it since it's just really, really technical on when it actually happens, and you're probably not going to really notice it when you're actually using it. For the Cowling Bomb launcher, however, there has been increased initial speed by the bombs by roughly 18%, and it also increased the distance they travel when the R is pressed and released immediately. For the Bubble Blower, there has been increased radius of ink coverage when the bubble blowers hit the ground by roughly 8%. They've also decreased the interval between bubble shots when in kid form by roughly 5 frames of a second. And the special power-up gear ability with this special will now more likely provide more benefit for fewer instances of special power-up. For Stingray, silhouettes of players highlighted by effects such as thermal ink will now disappear once targeted by the Stingray when firing. So I believe what this means is when a player has been hit by thermal ink or been affected by Haunt, the silhouette will then disappear if a Stingray has been played. This only applies when the Stingray is actually firing also. Continuing on, the Elite 4K has a bunch of buffs, specifically towards Brella weapons and the Bubble Blower. So basically, the Elite now deals 17% more damage to the shield portion of the Splat Brellas. And for the Tentabrella and Undercover Brella, it deals 20% more damage to the Brella shield portion of its weapon. For the Bubble Blower, it inflicts 23% more damage. For the Booyah Bomb shield, it inflicts 4%. And for Splash Walls, roughly 10%. For Ink Resistance, there's been improvements of the ability overall. That's really all you really need to know, honestly. And for the last one is Haunt. Basically, if you were to be taken out by a player and you are wearing Haunt, that player will be marked not only for 30 seconds, but until they have actually been splattered. So it has the potential to be locked on for more than 30 seconds. It can even last till the very end of the match, but the main thing is that that player has to be splattered for that marker to be actually worn off. You can actually now haunt up to 4 people on the opposing team. So basically, if you're to be killed by 4 different Inklings and they don't die for whatever reason, they will all be haunted and you'll be able to see all of them on the map. And that is pretty much all the patch notes that we have. Like, honestly, I just gotta say there's not exactly too much to talk about. Like, the majority of buffs that we have received, I mean, they're not really worth talking about. But honestly, what I'm gonna just do is talk about the ones that I guess come into more relevance, or I guess the most interesting. So I guess out of all of them, first of all, I just want to mention the Battleship Junior. Now, the 14% decreased ink consumption is actually huge because, as you already know, of course, you have 110%, I believe, of an ink tank, just generally, compared to any other weapon in the game. And now having this sort of buff, you basically shoot forever with this weapon now. Like, there is no need to really recover ink. There is no need for adding, like, main saver perks or anything like that. I mean, I'm pretty sure no one really did that in the first place, but you can basically shoot forever, and that is pretty much it. So it's gonna be really nice for, I mean, I know for sure a lot of people tend to like the Kenta Battleship Junior a lot, and maybe some people might want to even try the custom Battleship Junior because you can just throw a ton of bombs. It's really good for getting ink clouds and all that type of stuff, and maybe even sometimes the Battleship Junior. I mean, I think it's just a thing that really sets it apart from other armor weapons compared to like the H3 Nozzle Nose, the NZAP. You know, it's just basically the difference between it is now it basically shoots forever, and the other two weapons gotta rely a little bit more of ink, I guess, conserving their ink tanks and whatnot. So I think in general it's just a really interesting change. We're just gonna skip over to the 52 gal and 96 gal, so they had a little bit of a damage increase for its minimum damage. Now, honestly, like, it's cool that they did that, but honestly, I don't really feel like it's gonna be too much of something that we gotta really, you know, pick at. Like, it's happened, but of course, its main damage obviously is gonna be 52 to 62 damage. And if you're using a 96 cal, you're probably just gonna go ahead and use some main power up anyway. So honestly, like, even the examples I did show, no one's gonna be shooting up in the air to make sure that their shots like perform damage onto the person like that. I mean, I guess the good change for, I guess, both of them is that now they don't have the potential of doing, I guess it's good for the 52 gal more or less, because, you know, if you are getting full off damage like that, then you're more likely to get the 3-shot kill than 4-shot kill. I mean, honestly, the situation of I guess, shooting up in the air like that is so unlike the 52, so it's hard to see that would be the case that's gonna happen. I mean, maybe if you're shooting over a wall, maybe on Camp Triggerfish, and you're shooting over the wall, and then the pellet lands up and over the wall, and you tend to hit someone, and you perform 30 damage on them. I mean, probably could have been the difference of them staying alive or you getting a kill on them. So maybe in that sense, it could be okay. The heavy splatling, I want to mention too, the heavy splatling now is as fast as it used to be back in Splatoon 1. So I guess it's back to its general standard. And honestly, I mean, from the game, I guess Splatoon 2 being first release, it didn't need that nerf. Like, the heavy was fine back in Splatoon 1, so it's fine how it is now, and there's basically there needs to be no more changes to the heavy splatling, as, you know, it's basically buffed to how it could, it's buffed as it should be, you know. For the Battleship Pro, I mean, it has been nerfed, I guess, the main power up. I mean, it can still do 49.9 damage, but of course, you just have to wear all main power up, which no one's gonna do. And the thing is that compare all main power up to wearing 3.1 mains of main power up. Basically, 3.1 mains of main power up is 49.2 damage. All main power up is 49.9. So honestly, I'm pretty sure people are still gonna stick with 3.1 main power up, or maybe add a little bit more just to make it more consistent. Because that two-shot potential is still going to be there, like, without a doubt. There's going to be many situations still where people take more than 1% damage, and it's still going to be able to enable that 2-shot potential that the Battleship Pro definitely has. So I'm not going to be surprised that this weapon is still going to feed off the main power-up, you know, train. And I'm pretty sure, like, I mean, I just hope that they just remove the damage mechanic for the main power up for the Battleship Pro specifically, and just make the buffs, as in make it longer range, better painting power, just remove damage as a whole, because this problem is always going to stay with the Battleship Pro if it has this. They either going to greatly decrease the damage that main power-up does, make it as low as at least 47 damage if you put 3.1 on it, or just remove it overall. Bubble Blower being one of the more interesting special changes. 2 subs of special power-up, I mean, I've tested it before, is extremely optimal, I gotta say. So if you're using Bubble Blower, just know that minimum 2 subs can make a huge bubble. You can put more if you want, but honestly, I feel like if you're making some sort of build, then 2 subs can do great work. And for Haunt being a new sort of ability, now that Haunt, I guess, lasts forever, it is definitely something that's more, I guess, viable, or people might look into a little bit more, since if you do get killed by somebody while wearing Haunt, they are marked for the rest of the game until they die, obviously. But the thing about it is that, of course, you gotta remember the repercussions of Haunt, that if you do die to that person that you have just haunted, then you do get respawn punished. So you gotta be extremely careful, especially if you've haunted more than one person, that of course the repercussions of respawn punisher can be very, very deadly. But the thing is, if you do take out that person that you have just haunted, then of course you respawn punish them. So definitely use that advantage of being able to see them as they can't see you. And lastly, we got some special changes. I mean, we got the splatter shot going from 200 to 190 ink. The classic Squifford 180 to 170, Tri-Slusher Nouveau 180 to 170, Ballpoint Splatling Nouveau 230 to 220, Dapple Doolies 180 to 170, and Dapple Doolies Nouveau from 180 to 170. I guess the only ones really to mention are the Splash Shot and the Ballpoint Splatling Nouveau. I mean, it's pretty fair. I mean, basically no one really uses the Splash Shot, and of course Splash Shot not being as strong anymore, I definitely feel like it's well deserved that the Splash Shot gets a little bit, you know, a little bit of love for its, you know, its special points. And same for the Ballpoint Splatling. I definitely think that's a little bit more fair, because, you know, the Splasher Deco is at 220 ink, and it works just fine. It's like it's a very meta weapon, and you know, giving the Ballpoint Splatling 230, I feel like it maybe been a little bit harsh. So 220 is definitely a good number for it. But with all that being said, that is pretty much the patch notes that we have all received, and that is pretty much my opinions of them. I guess that is pretty much all the differences coming into this new patch. And honestly, all I really gotta say, like, I'm gonna make a couple of more videos talking about a little bit more about the you know, the new weapons that we have received. If you didn't know, we've received 12 new weapons coming into Splatoon 2. Content is not stopping anytime soon until July, I guess. But with all that being said, honestly, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please, if you did, please like, favorite, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Follow me on Twitter and Twitch, both in the description below. Do it for both if you are feeling generous. And as always, guys, this has been ThatSrb2DUDE, and I shall see you guys in a future video.